Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video we're gonna be talking about the best and worst books that I read this year. So best and worst books of the year 2022. Before we get started, I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Ana Luisa Jewelry. I wear a lot of Ana Luisa jewelry and you guys are always asking me where my jewelry is from. I'm literally wearing some Ana Luisa earrings as we speak, and honestly I'm so excited that I sponsored today's video. Ana Luisa is a sustainable jewelry brand that ranges from prices of $39 and up. And honestly, you can find jewelry for anybody on their website. I personally love their earrings, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. But they have so much variety. They have ear cuffs, they have necklaces, they also have some like diamonds and stuff like that. So you can check them out. I'll make sure to link their website down below. Include a discount code that gets you 20% off your order. So happy shopping, get yourself some jewelry, get some jewelry for your loved ones as well. And now let's do a little jewelry haul. 4 pairs of earrings to show you, including the ones that I'm wearing right now. Some earrings to show you. They come in these little pouches, so each pair of earrings comes in this little pouch. These are great for traveling too. Like, I always put my jewelry in these little pouches here. Bigger hoops. I've been wearing these non-stop since I got them. My new favorite pair. They're so great with everything. They give me 90s to early 2000s vibes and I'm obsessed with them. This is definitely a statement pair. So these are paper clips, but they're not really paper clip. Earrings are a paper clip and they're like golden. I don't know if you can tell here. It says I'm a big reader. I feel like this is such a cute piece. Shape is like really trending right now, and I got the smaller ones because I do own the bigger pair. This is what they look like for you guys. They are so cute, and they're also kind of on the thicker side, and they're definitely a statement piece, so make sure to check these out. Again, Ana Luisa for sponsoring today's video, and make sure to check my discount code in the description box. So I feel like we should probably start talking about the worst books that I read this year and then talk about the best books. I have a feeling that the worst books that I consider the worst books are gonna ruffle some feathers. I think everyone's entitled to their opinion on the books that they read. Personally, I don't really believe in tagging authors in your negative reviews, so I will never do that. But these are my opinions. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm a really harsh critic when I read. Like, I rate all my books 2 stars and higher, so I've never rated a book a 1 star, and I don't think I ever would. But if you do, I mean, you do you. I personally have a lot of 5-star reads and also 4-star reads. Now keep in mind, all my best books are not necessarily rated 5 stars, they're rated 4 and higher. Let's talk about some of the books that are rated 3 stars and lower. Now keep in mind, when I rate a book 3 stars, I still kind of recommend it, but it's not like a book that I'm always talking about. And I do have to kind of analyze my 3-star ratings a little bit because I feel like they possibly are a 2-star rating. But anyways, enough of that. Let's just start talking about all the books that I pretty much hated this year. And these are some of your favorite books. I really do apologize. I just really didn't like these books at all. Okay, so starting with the Colleen Hoover book, I feel like Colleen Hoover has had a lot of hate and love this year, and I personally like most of her books. I have kind of grown out of liking her books, meaning that I'm not really talking about her books as much or recommending her books as much anymore. I still do really enjoy her writing, and this one was probably my least favorite book of hers that I've read in all the like 10 books that I've read of her book. That is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. This one takes place in the beach. It's kind of like a summer read. I didn't like this book. I think I rated it 2.5 stars. And it was so cheesy. The characters were not likable. She was kind of giving not like other girls vibes. I just really didn't like the main character. So this is one of the worst books that I read this year. I think 2 stars. This is the first time I've rated a book 2 stars, so I really did not like it. And that is In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. There's a lot of mixed reviews on this book. I think right now on Goodreads it has like 3-point-something stars. I really didn't like this book. So you go into it kind of thinking this is going to be a romance book. It is not a romance book. Do not go into this book thinking you're going to get a sweet romance. It's just not a romance book. I don't think it was marketed properly in that sense. And I really dislike this book. Strongly dislike this book. To the point where like I just had to force myself to read it. It's a very short read, so if you want to try it out and give your own opinions about it, feel free to do it. It's a very quick read, and it did kind of fill up some space for me, but it just wasn't a good book. The next one's gonna ruffle some feathers, and I think this is one of my favorite authors, and I do consider her one of my favorite authors because one of her books did get me into reading, and I love that book with all my heart. I haven't found that in any of her other books. I did DNF, People Will Meet on Vacation. I'm talking about Emily Henry. I love Beach Read, that's one of my favorite books of all time, but I hated Book Lovers. I was waiting for this book for so long, and I did notice that a lot of the books that I really was waiting for this year completely disappointed me, and this was one of them. I rated this book 3 stars because I really like Emily Henry's writing style. She has a beautiful writing style. It's like really poetic in a sense. The books are really well written, but this book, the plot, the storyline, the main characters, I hated it. It's marketed as an enemies to lovers book. This is not an enemies to lovers book. I don't even think these people are enemies at any point in the plotline. I just don't agree with that. There weren't really likable characters. The whole book just focuses on the sister relationship, which I honestly didn't really care for that much. And this marketed as a romance book. I would call this just like a fiction book with a little bit of romance in it, and I stand by that. Now this is another one of my favorite authors, plural, because this is a dual author situation. It's the only Christmas book that I read this year, and I'm still kind of conflicted if it's gonna be a 2 or a 3 star for me right now, and that is In the Holidays by Christina Lauren. I really didn't like this book. I pushed through this book for weeks because I really wanted to make a video where I will read Christmas books and rate them. It didn't happen because this book put me in the biggest reading slump I have been in the last 3 months, and that, needless to say, I really didn't like it. So it did really focus on the whole family situation, which was nice. It gave a little bit of a Hallmark vibe, which I didn't really mind. The love story though, I hated it. The characters just kind of randomly got together, and it was just like the most underwhelming reveal of all time, and it's like a Groundhog Day situation, which I think is really overdone at this point. Then we've got, this one really pains me because this author wrote one of my favorite series of all time, which is the Off-Campus series, and that is Elle Kennedy. So this is Good Girl Compass by Elle Kennedy. I think there's a duology. This is gonna be a series too. I do want to get the other book because maybe I'll like those characters a little bit better, but this book was such a disappointment. I gave this book 2.75 stars. This is also a beach read. I read this during the summer. It was really cute in that sense, but the male character is like not likable at all. The next book I'm gonna talk about is technically a series, and I think there's only 2 books out right now. I've read both of them, and I'm talking about the series. This is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. I did something a little bit unconventional with this series. I ended up reading this one first, and then I read the fine print, hoping that the fine print was gonna redeem the series for me, and it did not do that for me at all. I gave both of these books 2 stars. I do not see one good quality about Declan at all in this book, and I also didn't really like the fine print. I think the fine print was a little bit better than this one, and maybe if I would have read that one first, I would have like enjoyed this one better, but I just don't think I like these characters at all. I'm still gonna read book number 3 because maybe I kind of like that character, so maybe his love story will be a little bit better. But yeah, this was a 2.75 stars for me, or 2.5 stars for me. I don't recommend this series. I know this is a beloved series by BookTok, Jewelry, so I know people are gonna hate this, but it just wasn't for me, and I do not recommend. This book blew up on BookTok, and I'm the kind of person that if a book is blowing up on BookTok, I'll get it without even thinking about it. And then this is what brings me to this point where I read this book. I drove my entire TBR to read this book for a video, and I hated this book. And the reason why I'm talking about this book last on my worst books of the year is because this was my most hated read of the year. And I'm talking about The No Show by Bette O'Leary. This author became popular because of The Flasher, which I haven't read. If I'm totally honest, after reading this book, I have no desire to read another book by her because I really did not like this book. So sorry. I know a lot of people do like this book. It's a favorite for a lot of people. People fell in love with these characters. I know this is not gonna sit well with a lot of people, but and don't try to convince me in the comments this is a good book, because my mind's set in the fact that I hate this book. Hate's a strong word, but oh my goodness, what is this book? Okay, so this is another book that I feel like it wasn't marketed properly. This is not a romance book. There's a lot of drama. It kind of gave me Colleen Hoover vibes in that sense, where like these characters have such poor luck. They're like the unluckiest characters ever. I gave this book 2 stars, not 2.5 stars, not 3 stars. This was a 2 stars for me. This was the first book that I feel like I wanted to give a 1 star to, and I still couldn't do it because I feel like that's really hard. But the main female character, which you're gonna find out if, or you already know who I'm talking about if you read this book, it's not a good main character. That lady does not have one redeemable quality, and I stand by that. And the guy, like, why is there so much angst to his story? I just don't get it. Yes and no. Said, if any of these books are one of your favorite books, I deeply apologize, but that's how I felt about these books. Now, I read a lot of really good books this year. Now we're gonna enter a more positive note, and these books are the best books that I read in the year of 2022, and I'll be recommending these books till I die. That's how dramatic I'm being. Probably one of my top 5 books of this year, and that is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a trilogy, I think. I think she's coming out with another book. The third book was kind of disappointing for me, but it definitely wasn't ranked in like one of my worst books this year because I do really like those characters. So this is kind of like a mystery, and like there's like a game situation going on. I feel like everyone knows what this book is about at this point. It is a YA book, so it's like good for younger audiences if you're looking to, I'm guessing, like 12 and up. But this is like a really intriguing book, and for a YA book, it's pretty well written, and really liked it. You fall in love with these characters. There's a love triangle, there's a 2-brother trope. Amazing. I love this book. The 2 first books in the ACOTAR series, I never thought that I was going to be a fantasy girly until I started reading ACOTAR. I think this is the first fantasy books that I started reading, and I fell in love with fantasy after this, and I just freaking love these books. Really, A Core of Mist and Fury. I haven't read the rest of the series. I'm still in book number 3, the pink one. I remember the name of it. But this book was amazing. Love Ryzen. I'll die on that hill. He is the best freaking fantasy book boyfriend ever. And yeah, this is the book that got me into fantasy majorly. I feel like getting through the first book still really gives you an urge to continue reading fantasy, so this book definitely did it. Like, I feel like I don't continue series unless I like the first book, and I rated this one a 4 stars. It was good. It really introduces you to the world, you know, the whole world building situation that happens in fantasy series. So it was amazing, but not as amazing as book number 2. Even if you don't like book number 1, please read book number 2, and I assure you it's gonna change your mind over this series. I'm not gonna go into detail. You know what the series is about, and if you don't, where have you been since 2015? That's all I'm gonna say. But a book doesn't really get talked about at all really on BookTok. I got introduced to this book by Haley Pham. Most of my reads have been because of her. She's one of my favorite booktokers and booktubers, and that is 99 Days by Kitty Cotugno. I feel like this book doesn't get as much hype as it deserves. This was one of my best reads of this year. This is a summer read, but I recommend you just like go ahead and buy this book right now. Drop what you're doing, go buy this book. The 2-brother trope. There is a love triangle situation going on. There's a trope in this book that's not a very well-liked trope, and honestly don't really mind that trope at all. But if you want to do a little bit of research about it, do it. I wouldn't spoil this book for yourself, so just get it. It's a YA romance book. It's written in like a diary entry situation. It's so good. Just go ahead and get it. Summer series. So the summertime was actually the best reading season for me. I actually thought I was gonna like reading during the fall and winter more, but I read so many good books during the summer, and nothing can top that. Reading by the pool, drinking a cold beverage like a Diet Coke, the best vibes. So I read the Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. I freaking love this series. I fell in love with this character since the beginning. I really like the brother trope and the love triangle trope, and that's why a lot of these books have that trope in it. I just think it's an amazing trope, if I'm totally honest. It gives you the angst, it gives you the back and forth situation. But I recommend this series so much, and I know there's a show right now too going on. I wasn't a huge fan of the show. I liked it. I'm still gonna continue watching it, but the books are way better. A little bit of a different genre, and that is thriller. This was one of the best thrillers I've read in a very long time, and the person who put me onto this book was Sarah Caroli. About Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney. If you don't watch her videos, go drop what you're doing and follow her channel because she has great book recommendations, and look, nobody was talking about it until she put it on the map, and this was such a great read. I don't know how to explain this book. It is kind of like in a winter setting. They go to this like cabin in the woods. It's not really, I just don't want to spoil it for you. This is one of the best books I read this year. Please pick it up. It's amazing. Talk really briefly about the rest of these books because this video is going to be super long. We've got The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a series. I'm currently on book number 2 or 3. So this is also kind of like the Inheritance Games. If I'm totally honest, if you like the Inheritance Games, you're gonna love this series. It's almost like Criminal Minds for like a YA audience. I personally loved it. All these kids are like training for the FBI pretty much. It's just a great series. Read it. I was gonna like reading sad books until I was introduced to this book. Also by Sarah Caroli. I did a video where I read all of her 5-star reads, or some of them, and this was one of those books, and thank you so much, Sarah, because this book was amazing. If you want to be depressed, just kidding, there's a lot of trigger warnings, so look them up. This book is so sad but so beautiful. Definitely recommend. I'm currently on book number 4. I just finished book number 3. I'm only going to talk about book number 2 and 3. So I'm talking about the Shatter Me series. I'm talking about Unravel Me and Ignite Me. Get through book number 1. Book number 1 is a little bit of a dreading read for me because I hate the fantasy building part of fantasy series. I don't think I'm ever gonna rate book number 1 a 5-star in a fantasy series ever, but this is becoming a 5-star series for me. I love Aaron Warner. That is all I'm gonna say. I get the hype. The series is amazing, and I'm about to read book number 3 as soon as it gets in the mail. Book number 4 today. I'm dropping everything and reading that book. Book was also a recommendation by Haley Pham. This is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This book was actually sent to me by Just Ali. Go ahead and follow her channel. I love her book recs too, so thank you, Ali, for sending this to me. I actually read this book twice this year, and I'm gonna read this a 3rd time next year because I finally have the physical copy thanks to Ali. This is the cutest YA romance book that I've ever read, so thank you, Haley Pham, for putting the entire book community onto this book. Right, next we got a standalone book, and that's Normal People by Sally Rooney. I have been so conflicted about how I feel about this book, and I feel like a lot of people feel like that the first time you read this. Her writing style is very controversial, but I freaking love this book with all my heart. This is right people, wrong time type of book. I love this book with all my heart, and I don't even know how to put it into words. Just read. You have to read this. Best book of the year, and that is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hoggle. This book was blowing up on booktok, I think 2021. I wasn't really super deep into booktok back then. I just started my booktok account actually this year, and this book was one of the best books ever. The reason why I never read this is because it's about 2 people already engaged and they kind of hate each other, and that didn't sound appealing to me until I started reading this. This book is almost like raw in a way that fiction shouldn't be, and I love these characters to death. You need to read this. This Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier, and I can't quite remember who recommended this book to me, but this is a thriller that doesn't get talked about enough. You have to read this. It's one of the best thrillers I read this year. A very controversial series, and that is the Magnolia Park series. This covers in these books were literally blowing up on booktok for the longest time. I have read all the books that come out, and I just got Daisy Heights and The Great Undoing, and I'm currently reading that as well. My favorite so far was definitely the first book. Unpopular opinion, I know a lot of people like Daisy Heights better, but this first book was amazing. If you like Gossip Girl and you like London vibes, read this book. God, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This was a very unexpected great book for me. If you like the summer, what's it called, The Summer I Turned Pretty, and if you like Love in Other Words, and if you like 99 Days, you're gonna love this book. Also, I love triangle trope, then another trope that a lot of people don't like. This book was just so unexpected. It's a very quick read, but it's such a beautiful read. And then lastly, one of the best books that I read this year, and I'm not, keep in mind I haven't been ranking them, I'm just talking about the best books. That is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book was beautiful. I think I took it for granted when I first read it, because if you see this cover, I read it like back when it was actually very popular. This book was so dear to my heart. I love Maisie and Elliot. I think they did get better technically, but you need to read this. If you trust any of my book recommendations, this should be your number one. You need to read this. There's a reason why this book is so popular, and I don't really think I have heard people actually hate this book, because I think it's impossible to hate this book. That brings us to the end of this video. I know I said some very controversial things about books at the beginning of the video. I really didn't mean to come off rude, or like I have nothing against those authors, but those are my opinions on the best and worst books that I read this year, and I really hope you took some book recommendations from this book. I also hope you don't hate me after seeing that I hate some of your favorite books, possibly. I don't hate those books. Hate is a strong word. I strongly dislike them. Let's just leave it at that. But that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you, Ana Luisa, for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check them down below. Use my discount code, and I'll see you guys in 2023 with more book videos.